Hey guys, and welcome to the Road to Wholeness. I've got a question for you. Do you ever feel like this right here is just like way intrusive in your life? Do you ever feel like you're spending way too much time on it? And then especially if you're a parent, you're like, man, my kid is now wanting this right here. What do we do with screens, social media, all these amazing things that God has given us, but what do we do with those things when it comes to wholeness? Well, today we have author Arlene Pelicane, who wrote this book, Screen Kids, and it is packed full of so many amazing tips for you personally and for you when you are raising your kids when it comes to screens. Arlene is an author of several books. She is a mom of 3. They've been married for over 20-something years, and we're just so excited to have Arlene on the Road to Wholeness today.
The road to wholeness is winding. It's tricky. It's easy to stumble on. But when you regain your balance, you find wholeness is not beyond you. You find breakthroughs and healing. Transformation is possible on the road to wholeness.
Well, Arlene, I'm so excited that you're here with us from the great state of California.
Oh, it's nice to be with you.
And yeah, my wife and I, we love California. And so thank you so much for being with us. And you know, before we kind of get into the topic that we want to discuss today, I really just wanted to take our viewers into your world a little bit and into your story. You know, this show is all about wholeness and helping people to walk in a lifestyle of wholeness and what that looks like. And so, what has been kind of your road to wholeness?
Yeah, it is the faithfulness of God. I think when I think back on my life, I can just think, God, you are such a faithful God. Growing up, I became a Christian around junior high, like really sold out, like I'm going to do this Jesus thing, I'm going to follow him. And like many girls, maybe my prayer was like, Lord, just please help me find that right man. Please, Lord, please. And finally, in my late 20s, I got married, which obviously right now sounds like big deal, big whoop. But back then, I felt like I was like the last person, to get married. And then, of course, I had always wanted to have children, always wanted to have a family, and figured that's not going to be a problem. I didn't have infertility in my background, so it was just like, this is going to be great. But it was like, wait a minute, this is a lot harder, I suppose. And so we found ourselves in this infertility, seminar with, 80 other couples. I was just looking around the room thinking, this many people, and it really showed me that a lot of people struggle with this. And so basically for our journey, what we found is that once I had an operation to remove some fibroids, that I was able to bear children. So it was so exciting when that first baby, Ethan, now he's a senior in high school, but when Ethan was born, I remember my husband saying he remembers being in the hospital and wanting to yell out to all the cars passing by, do you not know what has just happened? We have a son. It was just so marveling that life just goes on, and you've had this like monumental experience. Like, do you not know we
just
became
shouting
parents?
into the world, right? Like, instead of the John Cusack boombox moment, he's taking your son out and be like, look at my son, this is amazing.
It was totally like that. So we had that was like wholeness. Like, Lord, thank you. You've brought this man into my life. You've brought my son into my life. But I also say that with a little caution, because you might be watching and thinking, well, I don't have a husband and I don't have a son. And, is there wholeness? And yes, because God, I think like wherever you're at, he brings that. So what we found was we had Ethan, and then I was pregnant with our second. And so that was like, wow, this is so exciting. And it was right before Thanksgiving, I went in for an ultrasound. My in-laws were in from out of town for Thanksgiving. So it was an exciting time. We're going to find out the gender of the baby, found out that we're having a little girl now. So it was so exciting. But then she said, your doctor's probably going to call you later today. And what we found out on that call was that something was really wrong with the baby. And what ended up happening is we lost the baby at 26 weeks. Oh, man. So we had Christmas, and we were just praying. And the prayer was like, Lord, like heal this baby. Lord, take this baby home with you. Or Lord, if we have a special needs baby, like give us the grace like to raise this baby, and it is a very surreal thing when the doctor asks you, like, would you like to end this baby's life? Because, most likely this baby's going to be very deformed, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, no, we don't want to end the baby's life. We trust God.
Right.
And I remember the doctor saying to us, we see a lot of people and we have to give a lot of bad news to people, but you guys seem like you're handling it really well. Why is that in this appointment? And I had just said to him, it is because we're this is like not in our control.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing I can do, say, eat, exercise to
Right.
make this right.
Right.
But I trust in a God who will make this right. And
Yeah.
this is why we just believe God will help us.
That's so good, because I really feel like wholeness in general is, it's this. It's
Yes,
surrendering.
yes, yeah.
It's like if you want to be whole, then it's that picture of like going in. How do you float in a pool?
Right.
Right? It's like you got to completely lean in the water. You got to completely lean back.
Yeah.
You've got to just go, I'm putting all of my weight on
Yes.
this, and then I float.
That is exactly right. I'm just like, Lord, we're going to trust you. There's nothing else we can do, and that's okay. And we're just going to trust you. And remember, women would pray for me, and I just knew like God's got this. So we got through Christmas, and I was still pregnant. So I was like, okay, maybe God's going to do a miracle. And then between Christmas and New Year's, that's when we lost the baby. So I feel like in our brokenness, it's where we can we need the Holy Spirit so much. We need God so much. Every day we're crying out to him, will you help me? Will you help me?
Yes.
Will you carry me? Will you carry me? And he's like, I will.
Yes.
And just like what you said about the openness, it was just asking God to help me to have a posture, not of like, why did I get pregnant? Why did I carry that baby for 26 weeks? And then why did you take that baby away? But instead of that posture, which I think God is fine with, but instead of like the fists, right? That open hand of like, God, will you help me? Like, will you pull me up? Will you fill my hands again? And so I feel like that is a posture of getting to wholeness, is
Right.
that when you get to that point where you can say, I can surrender this, I can trust this, and I'm just going to trust that you're going to work this out for
Yes.
good, and you're going to work something great. And so we were supposed to have that baby in April, and so I took the pregnancy test in April, and my husband had felt like God had told him, you're going to have a girl, like I'm going to give you a girl. So
Wow.
he felt that confidence, like God
Yeah.
telling him, like,
Yeah.
you're going to have a girl. And I took that pregnancy test, and the little lines came out, and I was pregnant, and the following Christmas, we had a little girl
Wow.
named
What
Noelle.
an amazing moment.
And she was completely healthy and fine.
Wow.
And so now we have Ethan, Noelle, and Lucy. So we have
Yeah.
3 super blessings that we say, God, thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
a little
thanks
bit of
for
your story
asking.
there, and how God just was continuously with you
Yeah.
on that road to wholeness.
Yeah.
And now you're here, and you have this amazing ministry to families and to women and to and kids and just all this other stuff. And one of the things that really drew me to you was your work on like social media in the
Right.
family, and not just like screen time with just kids,
Yeah.
but also like pointing that back to the mom and the dad. And so I was like, when I started hearing
Yeah.
what you're doing, I was like, man, I've got to have her on this show, because I've got 3 kids of my own. And, there are days where, especially my middle child, my oldest too, but my middle child, man, it's like there's something that ticks in him already. And
Right.
we're only giving this kid 15 minutes a day
Right.
of screen time. And he's like, can I play your iPad?
He's making the most of it.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, can I play your iPad? When can I play your phone today, Dad? And I'm like, what is happening? Like, what's going on here? And so I'm already seeing the power of that. My wife and I, we're going, okay, well, how do we set up healthy boundaries for this? What do we do? Because we live in a world where, to me, I look at social media and I think about when Coca-Cola was first introduced.
Yeah.
The guy that created it actually used cocaine.
Right. Yes.
Like there was a little
I
bit
was
of
just
cocaine.
literally thinking about the former editor of Wired magazine who has 5 kids. He talked about the iPad being gaming crack, and
Yeah.
that he would not give his kids the iPad because it was gaming crack. It's
Right.
like they know what's inside.
Yeah, and I wonder if society is actually going to get to that point where in 20 years we're going to look back and go like, it wasn't so good giving our kids crack cocaine with these screens, or even adults at that matter
Yeah.
too, and so like just the long-term effects
Yes.
of this, like, and so I think it's a great conversation that we can have today about really how to help out parents and kids, and just, moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas about like, how do we do this and do this in a healthy way?
I think it's important to take the fear out of it, that we're afraid of it. So don't be afraid of it, but we want to be wise. So it's kind of the idea of of kind of being in the know. And so I think when we understand, wait a minute, this isn't just a neutral device. There's a reason why your son is like, I need to play, I need to play, I need to play. That this is wired so you don't feel like, oh, I'm such a bad person because I've just allowed my son to watch 3 hours, play video games for 3 hours and my daughter to watch 4 hours of TV.
Right.
But to realize, like, wait a minute, this is literally designed to hijack their attention. This phone I'm holding is designed to hijack my attention, and I better become wise or else my life is not going to go in the direction that I want to. So just if we understand, like, okay, wait, this is wired to always give a reward. We all love rewards. Your son loves rewards. We love rewards. So it's like, this is going to give me intermediate, pleasurable rewards. I'm going to check, and who knows what I'll see? Who knows what I'll get? Look at this amazing headline. What's inside? Look, this is on sale. Oh, let's level up. Like, it's always giving us those awards. Where in normal life, I mean, you could work a full year before anyone says, good job.
Right.
You did a great job. So we crave this. And so that wanting that reward, having that sense of a goal being set. So for a boy, he feels like, okay, I'm getting somewhere. Look what I've done in this game.
Right.
Look at the status I have with my friends.
Yes.
With a girl, look how many likes my picture got. Look how many followers I have now.
Wow.
But as we think about it, these are not wholeness goals. And so when we as parents give that to our kids, we need to realize we're giving them something very powerful. And unless we put in those boundaries, we can't expect a 5, 10, 15-year-old to say, oh, you know what? I know what's going on. They're trying to hijack my attention. I'm going to put this away.
Exactly.
They're not going to be able to do that. So we
no, thank you. I've only got 15 minutes today.
I'm good. So the parent has to step in to be like, I want you to be on the road to wholeness. I don't want you to be like, have awful relationships, but an awesome, you're great at video games, but you have no real relationship.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, first of all, I want to be sufficiently fascinated with God.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have all my distractions out there to go like, okay, this is what's actually keeping me from that. And I actually had to repent of that, to go like, wow, like I'm so easily distracted because I'm not sufficiently fascinated with you, God. And even in the way that we build churches and things too, it's this, it can be this easy thing, come and attend and do this and this, instead of just going like, no, God wants our complete, fascination.
Like we don't need all these bells and whistles just to pay attention to God, like the Bible. This is very fascinating.
And so for me, I've gone, okay, I want my fascination to be with my family. Okay, I want my fascination to be with the life that I'm living, and not with everybody else's. And so for me, it was just easier to go like, well, I'm going to really limit my time on the scroll. I'm going to stop the scroll. I'm only going to post something that I feel like is going to bring value to somebody's life and my life, and then I'm going to get on there for a couple of minutes a day or like whatever that is. And I've found my life, like me actually having some of that back to a certain degree, and it's just been very relaxing. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, because somebody may be like, well, that's totally extreme or whatever, but like that's what I've found is like I'm learning to become sufficiently fascinated with where I am, the people that I'm in the room with.
This is a divider because it puts a chasm between people in order to feel love. Like your child who maybe with the 5 love languages, we talk about that in the book Screen Kids, which is co-authored with Dr. Gary Chapman, is let's say it's physical touch, and your child feels love when they're in your lap and you're reading a book and you're talking or you're wrestling or braiding hair or whatever, but you throw technology in there and none of us are sitting next to our child as they're gaming. We're not sitting next to our child while they're watching TV. We're like, let's get out of here. And so we just have to think, how is this disrupting? And then there's this thing called the wandering mind, which basically is the idea that even though we're here, my mind is somewhere else. And they say that 47% of the time, they did this study, that someone's thinking about something else. And what's really fed that is your phone, because you're at work doing your work, but you're thinking about, oh, I need to respond to that text, or I need to check this score, or let me check the news headline, what's happening. So we're divided, and so our minds aren't where they're supposed to be. That fascination muscle is growing very weak because we have this other thing. And so we've got to help our kids really connect with people that realizing that's a skill. It's not, sometimes we just think like, oh, they're automatically good with people or they're automatically not, and it's not true. That the brain is developing in our kids, and on that road to wholeness, if they're gonna have a relationship, they've gotta learn,
Yes.
this means I'm sad. You
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
this means I'm mad. You know,
Right.
and kids, like, they're not looking at each other.
Right.
They're just looking at their emojis and they don't know.
Right.
And so it's so important for the kids to be able to learn these visual cues
Yeah.
that you can't learn if you're looking down at your phone.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, and you know, I really feel like you know, if we were to draw like the example of the modern man, you know, I think it was Leonardo da Vinci or something.
Yeah, sure.
That has the you know the
Right,
drawing
yeah.
of the guy all spread out,
sketch.
and it's like the sketch of
Yeah.
the man, right? Well, if and that's supposed to be like the perfect man. Well, if that was drawn today, there would probably be a phone in his hand.
Yeah, little earbuds.
Yeah, as like an extension of like,
Yes.
this is actually becoming a body part
Yeah.
to certain people. If we really think about that,
Yeah.
right?
And that's a test you can do, right, in your own home.
Yeah.
Is just say like, okay, could I go on a walk without my phone with no problem? Could I go to a restaurant without my phone with no problem? Could I go to church without my phone with no problem? Could I like stick it on the top shelf on a Sunday and not touch it for 6 hours with
Yes.
no problem? These are good tests to make sure that when we have our sketch made, that we
Yes.
don't have to have the device in our hands. And the thing is, as adults, we're only going to be able to give our kids what we possess. We can
Exactly.
talk all we want
Yes.
about like, turn that off, don't do that, you're wasting your time. But if they see us and they don't know that if we're doing quote unquote legitimate work, it looks the same to them. Our noses are in our laptop, our noses are in our phone. So it is kind of good with your kids to say like, oh, this is what mommy or daddy is working on right now, and I'll be working for half an hour, and when I'm done, we can go play. So they
Love that.
understand this is what I'm doing. It also keeps you accountable and honest.
Yes.
It's like, mommy, I thought you were working, but you're shopping for shoes. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry. You know, so that's a good measure of like,
Yeah.
let's be more disciplined, because our discipline will be theirs and our excess will be theirs too.
Yeah, wow, that's so good. That's so good. I love that because it does start, I think, with the parent, you know,
Yeah.
and kind of our own uses of social media.
They'll watch you, and
Right.
that's what will inform them.
How can we legitimately have a family dinner
Yeah.
and family time to where we can legitimately put these things down and have wholeness by actually being one of the amazing things about God is, and I want to say this to everybody out there, one of the most amazing things about God is He created us to be face to face with Him, not side by side. There's a difference of intimacy. Like if you stood up
Right.
and we were shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're close, but intimacy only happens face to face.
Yeah.
So if we're spending most of our time
You're
with a
side to side with the
screen,
people, and you're intimate with the phone.
do you see what
Yes.
what's happened in
Yeah.
the world? And so we're face to face with something that's not even real, and we're not face to face with the person that's right there beside of us. I just think that's so
Yes.
amazing when we think
Yeah.
about that. And so I think their goal should be, how do we get face to face with God first, and then with each other second, is the way we're naturally wired.
Yeah, it's so true. And if our kids are used to the amusement all the time and the entertainment and the attention, you know, everything, think of Mr. Rogers compared to how kids' videos are today. So different.
Yes.
Mr. Rogers face to face, he's just talking to you as a child, and
Yes.
he's building a relationship with you. It's one camera, it's static, nothing's happening.
Yep.
You know, and so if our kids are used to this, then they go to open their Bible, they go to pray, they go to serve someone, and they think, this is really boring. Like, this is not at all what my brain is used to.
Right.
So that face-to-face, it's cultivated by, you know, when your kids say, I'm bored, that's a good thing.
What would be, just if you were to go bullet points,
Yes.
real quick,
Yep.
off top of your head,
Yep.
what would be like 3 of your, man, I've got to share this
Yep.
with our people at home today?
Yes, I would say in a very practical way, no screens at mealtime. So really protect that, because research shows us over and over again, if they're connecting with you over meals, there'll be much less to do all the things we're afraid our kids will do, from drugs to having sex to being rebellious, all those things. That have that mealtime, and don't let it be distracted. Do not ever allow a screen in the bedroom. Make the decision that I don't care if my kid's 15, 16, 17, 18, they will be charging Just make it a practice and let your kids know from the very beginning, there is no way you will ever have a phone in your room. And the reason is we want you to have a good night's sleep so that you'll be able to survive in this world without having all these terrible things.
Yes.
And then I would say, like, it's so funny because we're so cautious as parents. It's like, what food ingredient is in that food? Or what, like, we're so uber cautious. But when it comes to screen time, like, what if I said to you, hey, if your child gets on this airplane, there's a very high degree that they will have ADHD, that they will have sleep problems, they're going to wrestle with anxiety, they're going to have depression, they're going to have some eyesight problems, they'll have some musculoskeletal problems, and who would do that? Like, we would be like, no, I'm sorry, we'll take the bus. Like, that's a lot of things. Obesity, I didn't even say obesity. So that's a lot of risk, right? And we would say, like, I'm not letting my child on that plane, but we will give all those things, obesity, anxiety, ADHD, relational problems, they can't make decisions, they can't regulate emotion. All those things come from kids who are on screens too much. What's too much? They did a study of 12,000 kids and they're following them over 10 years, National Institute of Health. And there's 3 benchmarks to a healthy kid. And so on this road to wholeness, think if you have these 3 benchmarks, sleeping 9 to 11 hours a night. Most kids aren't doing that because they're being woken up in the middle of the night, they're gaming, they're watching TV late, etc. 9 to 11 hours of sleep, 2 hours or less of recreational screen time. And I know some of your viewers will be like, oh, I don't let my kids do 2 hours. And some of them will be like, 2 hours? What would they ever do with the other 5? So 2 hours or less of recreational screen time, and then 1 hour of physical exercise. And they're very basic things, but most kids are not getting these things. And that's why we're seeing so many problems, breakdown of family, relationships, mental health, obesity, suicidal ideations, all those things. And those are 3 really not that difficult things to do. So I think for us as parents to say we're going to rise up, we are going to fight for our child's wholeness, and if we're the only oddballs that don't play this game or have this phone or allow this app, then so be it.
Yes. Fight for your child's wholeness. I want you to listen to that. I want you to hear that. In this area, it is so important. And parents, grandparents, single mom, single dad, whatever it is, I know the temptation is there just to let the TV, let the iPad be the babysitter, or be whatever it is in downtime. And listen, I get it. As a parent, I've been there. I'm like, yes, please, just play this thing. Like, please, But at the end of the day, like, hear what this conversation is bringing. We're not judging. We're not criticizing you. We're just bringing awareness to you, so that you can have this information that then you can begin to walk the road to wholeness when it comes to technology and your family. Arlene, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and for your time. I know that's a precious gift that you have, and thank you to your family for allowing us to have you on the show. And I would just love for you to end the show real quickly, just saying, how have you seen wholeness in your family because you've implemented these things?
Oh, that's another hour.
Yeah.
But just thinking, like my daughter who doesn't have social media, she'll say, people think that I would be like lonely or depressed because I don't have social media or a phone, but it's just the opposite. And in fact, we had them do a little documentary called Screen Kids in Their Own Words, where she said this so I could show her, and know. But the idea of, my goodness, that these kids aren't struggling with anxiety, depression, because they're not wondering, who am I based on all these comments of other people, but they know that they're loved by us. They know they're loved by their real friends in real life. They go to church. They have places where they serve. And so this wholeness, I see it. Like, people always talk about those teenage years, right? They're gonna be such a nightmare, and you're gonna want to disown your kids for 5 years and then take them back. And we have just found that it's been such a full, good, like the tree is flourishing.
Wow.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of those other voices in our kids' life, so that they can hear our voice of love much clearer.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. Parents, make your voice, make God's voice the loudest voice in your kid's life. And that alone will bring so much wholeness in shaping their God-given identities, and letting them hear their identities from the mouth of the Lord, from the parents that God gave these kids to.
And you want
I think that's so important.
You want your kids to grow up free, not like addicted. They leave your home and they're addicted to a game and they won't be able to make it through college. They're addicted to pornography. They're addicted to something, addicted to the applause of Instagram. Like, you want them to be free, like to be able to leave and be free.
Yes. We want them to be whole.
Yeah.
Well, Arlene, thank you so much for being here today. You've been such a blessing to me and to everybody watching the show. And I want to really encourage you, go check out her resources and check out her book, Screen Kids. I know it'll be a huge blessing for you and for your family, as we've just kind of scratched the surface today on the show. And I also want to encourage you to log on to streamsofwholeness.com and see how we can really come alongside you and your family on the road to wholeness. Wow, what an incredible conversation that we were able to have today with author Arlene Pelicane. And I want to encourage you to go and pick up her book, Screen Kids, because I know it's going to bless you and it's going to bless your family. But I want you to hear my heart. What we're not saying is that social media is inherently evil. What we're not saying is that phones are evil. But what we are saying is, just like anything in life, that we need to help our kids and even ourselves as adults have boundaries on the amazing technology that God has given us. And so here's a couple of things I really want you to do. I want you to think about, how can I go on a walk or have dinner or do something for like an hour every single day without my phone? Remember, your phone is not a body part. It was never meant to be that. And then the other thing that I really want you to do is, I want you to hear the heart in us being face to face with a phone instead of face to face with God or face to face with one another. I want you to think about how the enemy, who is always around us, wanting to seek and wanting to devour us, how subtle he is. Because he knows the most powerful position that we can be in is face to face with a God that loves us. And so I want you to think about the fact that he is going, okay, not only are you now not going to be distracted by who's beside of you, but now you're going to be distracted with this right here. And this is going to be face to face, not this right here, and definitely not vertical. And I want you to go, maybe I should really think about, how am I being intentional about being face to face with God this week? Put the phone down. I know a lot of you read your Bible on your phone. That's great. That's cool. You have devotions on your phone. That's great. That's cool. I'd love to encourage you to actually go and pick up a Bible that actually has pages that you can turn and flip and underline and highlight and write prayers in, and see the amazing things that come out of that. And I also want to encourage you, the third thing, to have some conversations with your kids. I want you to apologize this week. I want you to go up to your son. I want you to go up to your daughter. I want you to go up to your wife. I want you to go up to your husband. And I want you to say, I'm sorry for being here instead of being here. I want to do better. Let's connect more. And let's walk down this road to wholeness. Well, guys, we have amazing episodes coming up on the Road to Wholeness. I also want to tell you about the Road to Wholeness podcast that you can check out. And we're just going to go into deeper dives on wholeness and what it means in our lives. And you can find that on any streaming service that you choose for your podcast. And I also want to encourage you to log on to streamsofwholeness.com and we can help you on your road to wholeness. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.
Great, and that's great. Santana, let's just make sure that we hold on all that, you know? I just want to make sure. Because if we need him to do it again, we can do it now. It was so good, Josh. I love, like, these moments.
That part we were like, apologize.